Welcome to the Girlfriends Retreat, a safe place offering an unfiltered community filled with authentic conversations.
And experiences all from two friends' perspectives.
I'm your host, Christina Smith.
And I'm your other host, Dharma Fawcett.
Let's get started with today's episode.
All right, let's jump in. Hi, Christina.
Hey, Dharma, we're back.
I'm so excited to be here. And for this episode, it's a little more special than our normal episodes.
I know we have our first guest speaker today. So everybody, we want to introduce Sarah Yonan. We're so excited to have you on.
Thank
little
you.
about Sarah. Sarah's a life transition coach and therapist who, after navigating a number of her own complex transitions, recognized the importance of support during these shifts. So, Sarah, we're so happy to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. So, we kind of had this theme because Dharma is in the middle of a huge move right now.
So I heard.
Dharma, you're moving to France this month.
Yeah, we were supposed to actually fly out Saturday, and now it got pushed back again. We were supposed to leave February 1st. So we're like super bummed out, to be honest, but trying to stay grateful. The cup is half full, and we'll still get there. It just might be another couple weeks.
Yeah, and we were thinking with you being in the middle of this major life shift and me recently moving to Florida. I mean, it's been about 3 years, but it still feels so new and there's still so much struggle with this move. Trying to find my way into a community and opening a new salon. It's just been a lot. And then also we have kids, and that just makes everything 10 times harder.
I bet.
So with Dharma in the middle of this big transition and with me still feeling kind of lost, we were excited to bring you on and offer people advice kind of during hard times like this. So you specialize in helping people through those difficult shifts, and we're just excited to jump into this conversation with you.
I'm excited too. Let's go.
All right, let's do it. So we have about 4 questions that we're going to dive into, nothing too crazy. The first one is, what ignited your passion for helping individuals through major life changes?
So, well, I mean, plain and simple, my own life changes was what did it for me. So in my early 30s, I quit my steady long-term job while navigating a spiritual crisis of my own. And I actually eventually ended up moving to Hawaii. And so through through that transition, and there were like a lot of different sectors of my life that were blowing up at that time. I don't think I knew right at that moment that I needed so much help. But as I was navigating it, I found different people to help me along the way. When I was looking back at that really difficult moment and that huge transition for myself, I realized how much it would have been helpful to have supports in the midst of it. And I didn't have so many supports in the midst of it, especially during the beginning when I made the decision to move and then actually moving. And so I think later on, I wanted to offer people that support as they were going through those transitions and to have someone who specialized in that. And having been someone who had gone through it, it was easy to do that because I knew a lot of the difficulties that I struggled with along the way. So it made it real easy for me to sort of navigate into the coaching space and start working with people who are going through life transitions.
I think it's awesome that you do that just because personally, this whole shift, we've talked about it off camera, but I was in the military prior. Dharma is a military spouse, and the military kind of aligns you with a group of people right off the bat. Whether you like them or not, you're kind of stuck with this group of people. But with the move that I did with my husband to Florida, we were completely alone and we didn't know anyone. And it's so awesome that you're kind of like a beacon of light for those people because it's lonely sometimes and you just feel so stuck. So the fact that you are passionate about helping people in those times of feeling stuck, I'm so inspired by that. I think it's so awesome.
So both of you have done a number of different moves along the way. And what have you found has come up for you during that time?
For me, it's like that feeling of starting over. It can be very exciting, like so exciting, especially I love change. Like the
Yeah.
idea of a forever home, like I can't process it yet. So I really like that, but it can be definitely hard to have that bravery to make friends and start somewhere new. It's like that first day of high school all over again, you know?
Yeah. There's a lot of courage involved in taking those types of movements in our lives.
Yeah. Also financial, because you don't always know
Yeah.
exactly how things are going to roll out. And big transitions almost always have
Yeah.
unforeseen financial things. And so that
True.
cannot be super fun unless you're already super rich, which if you are, good for you. Makes life easier.
I realize that I've struggled with building community. With this
Mm.
move, I think putting yourself out there in uncomfortable situations as an adult is hard. And even though I'm a very social person, and once I'm in it, I can find my way around that. Still forming those connections that make you feel safe and actually build a community. To be honest, I have struggled with, I'm still trying to find the secret sauce, if you will, to make that happen.
Yeah.
Um, and even though I feel very fulfilled in my work and I'm very fulfilled in my family, recreating a new community, a safe space of people that you can go out and connect with, I feel that's been the hardest part.
Yeah.
Putting myself out there on that level, on that vulnerable level, I should say, to welcome someone in my space has been the hardest for me, surprisingly. I didn't think it was gonna be like that, but
Yeah.
that's been my struggle.
And the more you move, the more, there's a lot of investment and time that goes into building relationships. And so, like, depending on how long you're there, but I actually found it very interesting when I moved to Hawaii. I think because it's such a transient place, depending on the location, people often will be hesitant to pour themselves into a relationship because they worry that you're just going to leave again. And so, like, I experienced that in Hawaii, but then in like other places, people were that like when I lived in Manhattan for a while, like I found it was a little bit easier for me to build relationships there because everybody was sort of in the same boat with me. And we were all sort of transitioning and people stayed there for longer periods of time. And so I think depending on where you're going, you're kind of come up against different things. And also where you are in the season of life, right? So like as a mother, I imagine there's different things you're navigating within a family than if you were doing it on your own. And so it's complicated and it's really individual, which is one of the reasons with the work that I do. I remember when I was like creating my coaching program, I came up with an idea of what the container would look like, but I realized that everybody's so individualized. I was going to have to individualize according to the person because we're all so different when we do these transitions and we're up against different things. So,
No, that's very true because it's an individual's journey, right?
yeah.
My next question is, what do you find are the most common obstacles we face during periods of transition? Speaking of that individual journey.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I think trusting ourselves is one of the things that I find that people struggle with the most. So you're making lots of decisions. I imagine Dharma is experiencing this right now. Like you're trying to find a place to live. You're trying to find, it's not just the place, but the location. It's like, um, there's so many factors around what it is that you're trying to, there's all these steps that you have to take. And so you're having to make all these decisions, oftentimes very quickly. And then if you have a family, you're trying to make those decisions for other people, your children, you want to make the right decisions for your kids. So, what seems to come up for people is a lot of questioning. Am I making the right choice? Is this actually going to be what I want it to be? How can I trust myself that I'm going to make the right decision? And so I work a lot with people on that particular struggle of like learning how to trust themselves, learning that they can trust their decisions, and also just helping them and supporting them in making the right decision and making a balanced decision along the way. So I would say that that's one of the biggest things I find. Um, and I guess the other thing that came to mind is fear of the unknown. So yeah, any change, we have no idea what we're really up against. And so these two things are tied together, really. But it paralyzes us because we have no idea what we're going to be in for. And so it's a little scary, and we have to, and there's where the trust comes in. Okay, can I trust myself that this is all going to be okay?
So interesting when you mentioned the questioning ourselves. I was thinking, well, yeah, because it's a fear because you don't know. So how can you trust? And then you said it, and I was like, yeah, it's all tied together. Because that's what I'm experiencing. Like we have this amazing townhouse, prime location, but do I want to get the house before I see the house? But then if I don't get the house, and it might not be on the market anymore, that would make me so sad. But now we don't, like all these things because it's the unknown. I've never lived in Europe. I don't know if that's a good location. So that's exactly what I was thinking of. And I keep thinking of the transition into motherhood because I think that's been out of even all the moves, out of marriage, everything, the biggest transition for me was motherhood. And I feel like it takes a really long time. Like I feel like now I've transitioned into motherhood and my toddler is 3. So, and it's because of those same things. You've never been a mom. You can read all the books you want, but until you're in it, it's something that's unknown.
And the
It's interesting.
trusting yourself is huge with those, even if you're not making the right decision, just trusting that you have your child's best interest at heart and following that as your guide is really all you can do, you know?
How many kids do you have, Christina?
I have 2. One is 13 and one is 3.
Okay.
I have a gap.
Yeah. A good friend of mine just had a baby, and she has an 11-year-old, and then she just had an infant. So there's a large gap there. And so they're navigating all that. But I think it's interesting, she was saying how different it is to have your first child and then to have your second child. And like the first, there's all of these new things and all of the things that you question yourself about. And although I'm not a mother, I feel like as I've navigated the spaces with my friends, it's amazing to hear their stories about like there is a lot of questioning that you do in the beginning and trying to find your rhythm. And just when you think you found your rhythm, the child changes because the child is, I mean, of course they're human. They're always changing like we are. And especially at that, all these different developmental stages. So it's beautiful to watch, but it keeps you on your feet.
Oh, it 100% keeps you on your feet.
So funny. Oh, so then am I asking the next question?
Yeah, girl.
Okay. Did we have any more to say that? I love that. I love doing this because even just now I got like a sense of inspiration. Just from us talking, I felt like lifted up. So I hope the listener is having a similar effect.
I
Okay.
would think, Dara, for you, especially since, I mean, how perfect that you're going through it right now. You had said you're kind of in an empty space right now. You're all packed up and you're sort of waiting. And you're absolutely right. There's a level of excitement that happens, but there's also it's that also the fear at the exact same time. So like they're joined together, and so you can kind of feel that nervousness but excitement at the same time, and you want to get off moving, but at the same time I'm imagining that there's things you're leaving behind that you also have to like let go of and say goodbye to. So it's a very interesting space that you're in right now as you're navigating that in between.
It is. And the major thing is the waiting. I feel like waiting is a dangerous place. Like I've never liked to wait because when you're waiting, you're not creating. And life is literally a journey of creation. You're creating a marriage, you're creating motherhood, you're creating a business, you're creating friendships. And I feel stuck. Like I can't create because we might leave Saturday, we might leave a month. Like I could do a lot in 1 month.
Yeah, like you feel like you can't make plans because you don't even know what that looks like. Like, am I going to be here? Are they going to push this back? Are we actually going when we say we're going? Like,
It's
is
very
the house going to
complex.
sell? Is
Yeah.
my child going to be okay that day? Like, I don't know. You are the stuck for me whenever I'm moving is the worst because you just have all these plans and hopes and admirations and then the people you're leaving behind, you don't want to disappoint them by being like, "Oh, I said I could do that, but I can't today," or hey guys, I knew I told you that I wouldn't be able to do that, but I am here today. You know, it's hard being stuck in that spot.
Yeah, it's funny because Phoenix has heard us talking, and so recently he said, "Mom, we're stuck in Oklahoma." Like he picked it up from us speaking, and I'm just like, wow, like so crazy.
It's fun. It's interesting you bring this up. I'm doing a bit of waiting myself on some like life things, but I think it's interesting. Something I've been playing with a bit in my own life is how to find stillness in that moment and to find presence and joy while you're doing the waiting. And that is, I think that's really difficult. And it's possible if you stay present and not too future focused. And I think this is what we do when we're in those transitional moments, right? We think, I need to get all of these things done. So you start thinking ahead. But really, you can only do what you can do, right? Until you're there. There's pieces of it that you're not going to be able to do. And there's where the trust comes in. Can I trust myself? I can handle this. I got this. I know what my track record is. I've been able to do these types of things before. And then find those joyful moments in the present, which requires a ton of gratitude. It's not easy. And I'm not saying that I'm like a master at it or anything, because I still struggle with it. And I work with people and I try to help them achieve that state of stability and that state of balance within the chaos. But it's not easy. It's really hard for me too.
I
No,
love it.
I love that you said that though, because it is. Dharma and I have talked about this previously, but there's so much to be thankful for on a regular basis. And when we're putting so much thought into forward thinking or what we're missing out on, we miss the moment. And it could be something so small. So finding the stillness in the moment, even if you feel stuck, reroute you to remember like, hey, it's not forever. I'm not always going to feel this way. And in this moment, I'm really thankful for what is right now, whatever that is that I'm doing, you know?
Yeah.
That's what I've been working on actually. So it's again funny that you mentioned it because I'm like, okay, good. I'm on the right track. That I'm trying to even now. Sean loves to cook and he just made us brunch. Phoenix is in daycare, so we have a little bit of time to ourselves. And I'm like just trying to enjoy the moment and just be like, soon we'll be back in the hustle and bustle of everyday life. Like, let's enjoy this mini vacation that we have now. And also, it's a first world problem. I don't know if I've mentioned this on the podcast, but some months ago, I had the most vivid dream of my life where I was very extreme, but I was a sex slave. And
Goodness.
I literally woke up and I was like I felt that fear. And since that day, every problem I have, I compare to, well, at least I'm not a sex slave. Like there's actual humans right now, as we're speaking, locked away somewhere as a slave. And then I'm like, okay, so I have to push up my trip to France for a month. Like, oh, my life is so hard. You know what I mean? So then I'm kind of in that whirlwind of
Perspective, my God.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. Is it's a perspective shift, isn't it? When you have those moments.
like people wish they had my life right now. Every listener, like there's somebody wishing they looked like you. They had the even if you have negative $20 in their bank account, maybe they have negative 1 million and they wish it was only negative 20. So there's always somebody wishing they were you. And we can always look at the cup as half full. Like you say, I'm not an expert. We're working on it. And it's just, I think an always never ending journey.
Yeah.
I love that, Dharma. That was good.
All right, so we'll go on to the next question.
Yeah.
What is advice you would recommend for singles and also individuals with children when trying to build community in a new environment?
And I'm struggling on this one, so I'm excited. I'm excited.
See what I say? I mean, there's no one path to success in that area, which I'm sure you're seeing, Christina, and I'm sure Dharma, you've experienced that. But I mean, I think, well, I'll start with families. From what I can tell from families, I think when you're making those sorts of transitions, you need to strategize where you want to focus your attention. Because I think for like Christina, what you were saying, my family, my work, you have different sectors in your life, and if you were to kind of put it on a pie, how much energy are you putting into all of those sectors? And so if you're pouring all of your energy into these other two places and you don't have any energy for that community building, you have to like really get intentional about putting energy into that. But then on top of that, you also have to be really focused on, okay, I can't spread myself too thin. And that's actually what I find moms do a lot. The moms that I've worked with, they end up trying to do too much and trying to have their hands in too many things. And then they get burned out and they can't actually take care of themselves. And interestingly enough, the thing they get burned out on trying to create community or trying to create opportunities for their kids oftentimes is what it is, because they care so much and they want their kids to be happy and they want their kids to get connected into places that are going to be good for their development. But you have to remember that you need to take care of yourself first, right? That whole concept. And it sounds to some level, I think we can think of it in a selfish way, but it's not selfish at all, because if you do take care of yourself, you're then better able to take care of your children. You're better able to be a good wife, a good mother, and do the things that are good for them. And so really focusing your attention and making sure, okay, this is self-reflection that you have to do to some level. How much energy do I have? Where's my energy best spent? How much, like, okay, I only have this amount of time to build community. I only have this amount of time. Where do I want to place this? Where do I want to put my energy? And so that, I mean, that would be my first thing. As for where to connect, that depends on the place, that depends on the person, what your interests are. Obviously best if you can sort of kill two birds with one stone, right? You can try to create community. So is there a place where your entire family can find community so that you're finding friends for yourself while your kids are finding friends and your husband's finding friends as well? Like, these are the types of things. And I think the only other thing that really comes to mind is reminding yourself when you're talking with it, you're doing that self-talk, that community building takes time. And I think we forget that. We want to rush the process. And for those of us who like to move, for those of us who like to be constantly changing and shifting, we have to understand. I mean, I think I've gotten oftentimes impatient with how long it takes me to build community. And then in retrospect, when I look back, I'm like, actually, like I lived in Hawaii for like a little less than 2 years. And I built an amazing community in that period of time. But in the moment, there were moments where I felt very lonely and felt very like I was struggling a lot. And when I look back, I now visit Hawaii on a regular basis because of all the friends I made there. And that's awesome, right? So I think, again, perspective shift, that it does take time, and maybe you're doing more than you realize, and maybe you're doing better than you think you are. And in the moment, sometimes we have a hard time seeing that, if that makes sense.
No, I love that because Dharma and I have talked about this, but I like how you said impatient. I am so impatient. And even though I've been in Florida for 3 years, during that time, I had to focus on my family. I had to focus on building a business. We got quote unquote our forever home. Nothing really ever is forever. I believe that, but we have intentions to make this a long-term residence.
We're gonna move there, so stay there.
I know, right? We're grounding. We're working on grounding. We're gypsies all to a sense. But I'm so impatient, and I like how you said perspective shift, because in the time it's not like I haven't been doing anything. I've built a beautiful business. I have phone calls that I can make to people that would be here for me in a second. I guess you have to shift your perspective. Like, I'm just so impatient and I have to just work on that stillness, like you said. Like, it may not look like how I'd want it to look, but it is in the process of building. Um, and it takes time. And if you're impatient like me, I think that's a good light bulb moment. Just allow the process to happen. Because I'm sure I'll look back and be like, wow, that was working out for me. I just didn't see it in the moment.
A 2020
I,
vision.
yeah, and I think our expectations get in the way, right? So we create an expectation of what we want the outcome to be. And this is something, again, I mean, this is on a regular basis. I'm talking to myself about this, but when we create these expectations, we get so focused on those rather than being able to see what's around us, like what actually is in front of us, what actually do we have. And I think you make a good point, Christina. One of the things I have moved around a lot. I've moved to different places, but I've also just like at some points not even had a home and just moved from place to place, as like more of a nomad type thing going on. And in those moments, you realize my community is a lot of different places, and I have access to community in a lot of different places. And with technology the way it is, it's very accessible to us. And so you do have a community somewhere, and that is something also to think about, because
That's true. That's so true.
I don't know how many moves you guys have had, but it sounds like quite a few. So if you kind of take stock of all the different places you've been, the people that the relationships you've built along the way, I bet you have a lot of resources at your fingertips.
No,
Yeah.
that's a really great perspective, because Dharma and I definitely do. She can relate to that statement as well. I think it is just shifting your perspective. I like how you said that.
I'll say
Yeah.
one, I literally have so many things like that. I was like, oh, we can talk about this and that and this and that. But that's why we have a podcast. So we have lots of different episodes to talk about things. Christina has in the past like given me the superpower that I'm really good at making community and networking and all of that. It's something that, I've been in the industry of sales and networking for 7 years. So like you develop the skill.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily something I was born with. But like I told her, you just want to create an event and then invite people to it. Even if nobody shows up, then it's your self-care event, or invite. And like you said, the kill two birds with one stone. Like we're so busy, let's work smarter, not harder. Like do the play date, get your kids community, but guess what? The moms then are your community.
Mm-hmm.
And then you do a family barbecue and they can bring the husbands, and then the
No, it's
husbands
great.
can have community. So that's
I had a light bulb too when she said that, because I was like,
yeah.
I'm always just thinking about what can I do, but like it is possible to knock out those birds with one stone and include the whole family. It's thinking outside the box for sure.
So exciting. We should do an episode just about how to create community as a grown-ass woman.
That's a light bulb moment. We'll
I
put a pin in
know.
that.
I feel like women, I think all of us need community, don't get me wrong, but I think women
100%.
really need community. And
We used to live like in villages and we'd all take care of the kids together. And now it's so much. That's what I was gonna say, so much isolation. I went to a girls' night. There was 19 of us at this girls' night. Every single one of them thought they were lonely without friends. And then we all looked around the room and we're like, well, you just gained 19 friends because we're all lonely together. Like, let's stop being lonely, start planning events and just start showing up for each other. Because why are we in our houses feeling lonely if everyone else is lonely,
That's
And
true.
that the thing that's interesting about what you're saying, and I think this is profound, that all of those girls were saying that they're lonely. They needed a forum to say they were lonely. We need to tell each other. And I think this is what we're missing, is that we put up these walls, we protect ourselves from being vulnerable, we don't share that we're struggling. And you make an effort. If one person says, I've been feeling kind of lonely, it opens up the door for everybody else at that table to say, I'm lonely too. I really need this. I'm really looking for that. And this is, there's a quote that I love that I can't think of the entire quote, but he talks about basically sharing a secret with somebody so that you open up the opportunity for them to share a secret too. And I think sometimes we hold these things away from people, not wanting to show all of our cards, not knowing if we can trust people, not knowing if we can be vulnerable. But in that vulnerability is really where we find the community that we're looking for, because if we open ourselves up to the possibility of sharing something that we think, oh, this might not be a popular thing for me to say, actually, most people at the table are probably feeling the same way.
I love that.
Yep. I just had so many ideas of things I can do. I'm so excited. Oh my gosh, I love it. This is so awesome. All right, so then I'll read our last question. When we are in the space between where we were and where we want to be, we can feel a little stuck. What is some advice for people in that place of feeling stuck? How do you encourage them to move forward?
So this one, I would say the thing I talk to my clients about is, well, typically when a client comes to me, they're feeling incredibly overwhelmed, as you said.
Mhm.
And so, Dharma, I imagine you've got a million different things you're trying to track right now. And so when people come to me in a moment of transition, they're tracking all these different things they need to do. They come to me, and usually that connect call that I do with them, it's like, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening, this, and it's like just a lot. And so they need a container, they need someone to process with. But once they sort of ventilate all of the things that they're struggling with and all the things they need to do, the next step is helping them to, create a goal. What are the goals that you have? Let's name them. But we can really get caught on the overarching goal, and that still overwhelms us. I find that to be an issue. And so what are the steps you can take? So what's the first small step you can take to, like, you're thinking about this huge move overseas, can you find just one apartment that you're interested in considering? Can you find just, one car that you're looking to buy? Just the first step, and then opening the door to one small step oftentimes helps us to slowly unravel all of the other pieces of the puzzle. But I think we get really overwhelmed with all of the details. And I do think oftentimes when we're going through transitions, they're compounded. We're doing a lot of things. It's not just like, most of the time when people come to me with transitional moments in their lives, there's a lot of things happening at the same. They're not just navigating a move, they're navigating other things that have happened, other things that they're having to let go of and process and move forward with. And so trying to focus in on what is the most important thing right now that I can do, and taking one small step so that I can feel some success. Because I think that's the thing, is we're too scared to take a step at all because we're worried that we're not gonna like do it right. So if we just take a small step, it makes us feel successful in some way, and then we can decide what the next small step is and what the next small step is. And those steps, I think, get us to the bigger goal, but we don't want to get too overwhelmed with the bigger goal.
I like that because that can go for a lot of different things. Like in Dharma's
Right.
case, she's moving, right? So in her day-to-day right now, just checking off something that needed to be done for the house would be a small success that she could focus on without feeling so overwhelmed with the whole checklist. Or someone in transition from quitting a job and moving to another job. Maybe they're changing their entire career, but just small victories like, I quit, I'm changing direction. That's a small success. Let me just focus on what that means to me. It doesn't have to be this huge event. It could just be something as simple as the feeling like I quit something I wasn't happy doing. That's a success. And so many times we bypass that whole step and we think, oh, we just have to jump into this next thing. I'm so overwhelmed. Like, what if this doesn't work out? But quitting something as simple as quitting something you're not happy with is a step, and we should celebrate that. So I like how you said that. I had like aha moment. It's just those small successes. They build up to the whole big event eventually. So I like
Well
that.
said. I agree with both of you. And what kind of how I look at it, and this is how I coach like my team, and even it's like a parenting strategy I do, is what can you do? And always working with what can be done, keeping your eye on the mountain as far as like what the big goal is, but like you say, like breaking it down. And then example, I'm coaching a new team member. We need to launch them on social media. They need to go live. For most people, going live, it's like paralyzing. It's so scary. I'm like, okay, well, what can you do? Can you do a caption post? Okay, good. Let's do a caption post. Okay, good. Now today, can you do a selfie and with a caption? Okay, let's do that. Okay, now can you do a recorded video with a caption? Okay, let's do that. Okay, can we do a live together? Okay, all right, now you can do your live by yourself. But it took all these little baby steps. And so I do that with Phoenix too. Like, okay, he can't do X. Like, weaning him off like co-sleeping, which is like our big transition with him. That's a lot. So like, how can I break that down? What, maybe he can sleep alone for an hour. Okay, good. Let's work with that ability and build on that ability from there.
And then he did. He slept for an hour.
Right.
And you're like, wow, that was a success. Instead of being overwhelmed by the whole man, he's still co-sleeping with us. No, we're making progress, and I'm going to celebrate that progress. I like how you said that, Sarah, because that's another perspective shift. Not allowing yourself to get overwhelmed with that whole whatever it is. It could be so many things.
Whatever the transition is.
Whatever the transition is. Yeah.
It's because we get future, again, it comes back to being future focused. And I mean, I recently, I started my business about 5 years ago, and I recently had a moment where I realized the things that I can do today, as opposed to the things I could do, I mean, to all of the marketing and the sales and the different things that I have to do to run my business. It was so hard in the beginning, but every little step and every video I watched and every person I talked to and everything I learned along the way. And now I help as like another thing that I've kind of added to my repertoire of helping people with transitions. I can help other entrepreneurs as they transition into their work because I've done some of those things. And I think you both own your own business, yes?
Yeah.
I don't know if you agree with me on this, but I think one of the things that has helped my own personal self-growth, I mean, more than anything else, has been the entrepreneurial journey.
Love
like
it.
the way that you challenge yourself to do new things and push yourself in new ways that I mean, I'm a therapist, right? I do that kind of work all the time. I've been in therapy, I've been in coaching, I've done that with other people. But the entrepreneurial journey, that is a place where I have grown exponentially just by having to push myself to be more open and to learn all the time and constantly challenge myself to do things that I never thought or knew that I needed to do. I mean, it humbles you beyond belief.
Oh, it humbles you so hard. It really does. And because you have that passion and it's yours, it forces us to push through that discomfort because you don't want to fail. So you keep going. And I will agree with you. I've learned so much through entrepreneurship. I mean, even something like this podcast, I never could have forward saw. If you had told me 5 years ago, Dharma and I would be doing a podcast, I would have laughed. I'd been like, yeah, right. I hate being in front of the camera, whatever. Dharma knows this. We've been friends 12 years. So it's funny what you're saying because it does push you, but it pushes you in such a beautiful way and in such a way that you feel confident encouraging others because you have done it. You know it's doable. You'll get on the other side. So I love that.
The self-development journey. And I'm so passionate about sometimes you look at your business and you have your income goal, right? So my first income goal is to make 10,000 a month. I'm not there yet. So then I could look at that as like a loss. But the woman I've become in the last however many years I've been doing this, like that's priceless. And that's going to transfer, like that's like generational wealth because my son is going to view me as a woman I am today growing up, and he's going to see me keep growing and stuff. Like you can't just, not all about the money. It's about those priceless things. And I think we've kind of diverted into like we're pitching entrepreneurship as a transition you want to be in a self-development journey. The biggest tip, and I learned this like literally like day one when I started my business, I did an audio and it was like, you cannot quit before the 5-year mark. Like even if 5 years you see zero result because you're shifting yourself and becoming bigger, but you got to give it those 5 years. If you quit before 5 years, you didn't even give it a chance. And I think that's why so many people fail or give up on their journeys because they never even gave it that 5 years it needs.
And I mean, that actually kind of coming back to the conversation about community, when we think about, you're saying, okay, you need at least 5 years and I agree with you. Like when I set out for my business, I was like, all right, I'm going to do this for 5 years. I'm going to see if I can like make this happen. And I did. And honestly, at the time when I started, I was like the least committal person ever. Like I'm a committed person in general, but like I have my own fears around needing freedom, honestly. And so that's one of the reasons I've lived my life in a really non-traditional way, because I think I've always felt I let go of a lot of attachments to things with the hope that I could feel that freedom. And that was why I moved around a lot. And it's funny, now I'm kind of shifting and feeling like I want to be more in one place, which is funny after 10 years of like being a nomad. But I think oh, where was I going with that?
Community. You were saying community.
Community, yes.
5 years.
But when I think about what you're saying about community, honestly, it takes a long time to do any, like we think we can do things fast. I look at any relationship that's been worth building it takes a while. Like you don't just build a relationship like that. It takes you time. And so your business takes you time, relationships take you time, community takes time. And that comes back to that impatience feeling that we all have, right? We feel impatient. I need this now. I need this now. I need this now. But no, actually, maybe something bigger than you is telling you that something more rich, deeper can be built if we take the time and we make the efforts to build something over a longer period of time. You
So
know?
5 years to build a community. Don't give up on that community.
Exactly.
5 year mark, Christina. You got 2 more years. Don't give up. You're gonna build that Florida community. Sean and I literally, we look at moving where you're living. So literally we're coming, your community is coming to you.
So let me get this straight, Christina. You've been in Florida for how long?
3 years, and I give myself such a hard time, but even having this conversation, I've built a beautiful business that I'm so proud of, and it's funny because in so many ways that is a community that I'm so proud of, but I'm impatient. I'm impatient, and in 3 years' time, I've done a good job. I just need to remember that I'm still building, and it takes time.
Right.
And even though where I feel stuck right now, is different than like how Dharma feels stuck, um, I won't always feel stuck with where I'm at. I just have to keep growing, keep building, be patient, take those little moments of stillness to find gratitude for all the beautiful things that are working right. And I think so many of us can relate to that. I come from Louisiana. Our culture is so rich in community. I've known people there my whole life, and I miss that and I crave it. And I want so badly to create that here. And it just takes time. It just takes time.
And it's not going to be the same as what you had. Like I well, I'm all over the place, but I don't know how to explain this
Same.
in a very quick way, but like currently my home I sort of home base in Florida and I sort of home base in Pennsylvania. And but I grew up in the Philadelphia area. And so Philadelphia has been a place I come back to. And I think as you get older, you really value the people who've known you for a very long time. Even though, like, I've built relationships in Hawaii and in Manhattan and all over the world, quite honestly. And I have people I could go see there, and they are beautiful relationships. I feel so grateful for the relationships of like some of my best friends who have known me the longest are here in the Philadelphia area, like for you in Louisiana. And it's a different kind of relationship, and I get that. And so, you really can't compare those two. And in some ways, you can give yourself the ability to understand that, right? It's like okay that they're not the same. And you may not be able to build exactly that where you are because it's really special what you had in Louisiana, right? And so and that's different. It's different. It doesn't have to be the same. Yeah, if that's
Yeah, it
helpful.
has like its own
No.
standard. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with that. I don't know if you were gonna ask about how we knew each other, but we go back to Tennessee, so 10 years ago, because she and her husband deployed with my husband.
Okay.
That's how we all met. When they got back, we kind of but we're like a community, like they're our best friend, like couple friends. It's really hard to find that, like that couple that like is your tribe. And so Sean and I have at least 4 years left in this military lifestyle. But for talking about that forever home and that idea of settling down, it would definitely want to do Florida, especially if we can be close to our friends there. Because like if Christina and I are in the same place at the same
Look
time,
out.
an extended amount of time, world, you watch out.
Watch out.
So like that'd be so exciting. Our kids are about the same age, our toddlers, so they would be like able to grow up together. And our husbands are so weird, and they're just like weird together. Like it's got this bromance of
I
weird.
love that you describe them as weird. So how long are you in France for?
3 years.
3 years.
And then
Okay.
we have 1 more year, which if he's retiring from the military, he's already been in 16 years. Then we would do 1 year transition out of the military, literally. I don't know where they would send us to do that last year. And then he would get out. Now the Army has a tendency to dangle a large bonus or some sort of carrot to keep you
And
in.
maybe prolong that.
That
Yeah.
may
Well,
prolong.
we don't know.
Well, we don't know. And I'm very supportive of my husband. I was like, babe, whatever you need to do, like you do it, I'll support you. Like I've got my own business. Wherever we move, our kids gonna like Phoenix will be fine. Like we can make it happen. But then we do have this vision of living with our friends in Florida that kind of keeps getting.
Yeah.
But it's like what you said, bringing it back. Sometimes when we look back, like at this moment we're in right now, it'll all make sense. And so it's just kind of my takeaway from this whole conversation, and what I hope our listeners can really also take away is that to find those moments of stillness when you're feeling stuck and dig in for that gratitude, because even if you are in a place of transition and you can relate to this topic, you won't be in transition forever. And even when the next transition comes up, because there's always cycles in life, well, there will be another transition. You'll just be more prepared for the next one because you've already been through whatever you're going through. It just makes us stronger in the long run and more aware that we can roll with life's changes. Life is a never-ending journey. That's the point, right? One of my favorite quotes is that life is a never-ending education, and I believe that so strongly.
It's true.
So we're just on this life, rolling through its transitions, evolving into who eventually we're meant to become. So, Sarah, I'm so happy that we had you on. You've been a delight. I've had so many aha moments, and I hope our listeners have as well. Dharma, is there anything you want to say?
No, I was thinking this was you like summarized it so beautifully. I was like, that's awesome. I don't know if Sarah, if there's anything else you want to say, you can.
No, I so appreciate the authenticity of this conversation. You guys are really beautiful people, and I'm glad that you contacted me to do this. This is wonderful. So thank you.
Yay, I love it. And when we do our in-person retreat, if we do it in Florida, maybe you'll be in Florida, Sarah, and you can be a
Hey.
part of that too.
That would be amazing.
Awesome. Well, thanks for tuning in, everybody. We will see you on our next episode of the Girlfriend Retreat.
Bye.
Bye.